The Nintendo Switch 2 just came out 2 days ago, and I've been spending a lot of time playing it. To the first Mario Kart in 10 years, to a paid tech demo that is surprisingly good, to seeing Zelda running at 60 frames per second, I have been playing the Nintendo Switch 2, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. This is my review of the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, before we get started, I would really appreciate if you would like this video and subscribe to the channel. It'll help you stay up to date on Nintendo news and my analysis of what Nintendo is doing. But anyway, let's get right into the video. So I'm going to divide this video into 2 parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware and how it functions, what I like and what I don't like about it, how it performs based on expectations and what Nintendo said, and basically just a full analysis of the hardware. I'm also going to talk about our big AAA game that came out, being Mario Kart World. I'm going to talk about Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I'll talk about the GameCube for Nintendo Switch Online, and the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom, because believe it or not, I have never played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I have played part of Tears of the Kingdom, so I'm going to give my thoughts on that upgrade pack. And in the final part of the video, I am going to rank the console and the games based on how worth it they are to me for the price, and why or why not you should pick them up too. So let's first talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. The first thing you notice about the Switch 2 out of the box is that it is quite a bit larger than the Nintendo Switch 1, and the screen itself is 8 inches, which is about 1 inch bigger than the Nintendo Switch OLED screen, so it is a vast improvement in terms of size. The Joy-Con 2 controllers, compared to their predecessors, are also better in just about every way. They magnetically attach to the Switch 2 system, and it's a lot easier than sliding them on the rails like with the Switch 1, and the rails tend to weaken over time on the Switch 1 since the connector itself is a very tiny piece. I'm not sure if it's metal or plastic, but it does wear down over time, and that was a defect with the Switch 1. But with the Switch 2, the magnets on the Joy-Con 2 feel much more sturdy, like they are not going to fall off at all. They stay on pretty well to the Switch 2 console. Now, if you do yank them enough without pressing the release button, they will come out, but I can tell you, the Joy-Con 2 are definitely not going to detach from the console unless you are trying to detach them. The Joy-Con 2 also being larger really helps in their favor, since they are more comfortable to hold now, especially on their side when you want to share one with a friend, and that is helped by the bigger SL and SR buttons. The Joy-Con 2 also have mouse mode, which allows you to use the Joy-Con 2 as a mouse, as the name would indicate. And in my opinion, it works pretty well, although there aren't too many games that support it right now. The Nintendo Switch 2 screen is also larger, but does that mean it's better visually? The one downgrade to the Switch 2 screen is that it is LCD rather than being OLED, so Switch OLED owners might have to get used to using an LCD again. Now, as somebody who has used all 3 variants of the Switch 1 at different points over the Switch 1's lifetime, I can tell you that the Switch 2 screen looks just fine compared to the OLED. At worst, it is just about the same as the OLED, but I feel like it looks a lot better since you now have a 1080p upgrade versus 720p on the Switch 1 screen. And when you are comparing the Switch 2's LCD to the Switch 1 Standard's LCD, the screen on the Switch 2 just looks so much better than the screen on the Switch 1, so if you are thinking of the 2017 LCD on the Switch 1 is going to be what's on the Switch 2, it's very far from that. The LCD on the Switch 2 is so much better. Now, the user interface of the Switch 2 is not really too different from the Switch 1. You can tell that they are from the same family when you take a look at the UI, although the Switch 2's UI is undoubtedly better than the Switch 1's. The Switch 2 does have tidbits of Nintendo character that a lot of fans miss from the Wii and Wii U days. Now, these aren't any drastic changes, mostly just the sounds that play when you open an app on the Switch 2, but it's still nice to see that they are headed in the right direction. The Switch 2 stand is also a lot better than the Switch 1 stand, or even the Switch OLED stand, because it's a lot easier to pull out and adjust than the Switch OLED stand, and it is leagues better than the 2017 Switch's stand. The Switch 2 dock does look very nice with the Switch 2. They've rounded the edges, and then there is a fan inside the dock that keeps your system cool, which assists the Switch 2 so that it avoids overheating. Now, similar to the Switch OLED dock, the Switch 2 dock does have a built-in LAN port, so if you have your internet modem nearby and you want a more stable online connection, you can just use an Ethernet cord and plug that system into the modem. Now, I also got a chance to try out GameChat with fellow Nintendo YouTuber Epic E3G. He makes really good Nintendo content. I'll link his channel down below if you want to check it out. But thanks to him, I got to try out GameChat for this video. Now, going back to GameChat, we all saw Nintendo release a 5-minute trailer in the Switch 2 Direct. A lot of us thought that it just went on too long. Nintendo is really trying to push GameChat as the new way to talk to your friends. They decked it all out. They've got these menus, everything. It's all set up to play. And I tried it, and I actually really liked it. Nintendo delivered on what they said. You know, you've got your microphone that's built into the top of the system. It looks like this teeny little mic that wouldn't sound good at all, but it actually worked quite well. We both heard each other without any issues. I was 2 feet away from my system. I was using my monitor, so I was not right up to the mic, and it worked well. I even put on my fan in the background. I tried it out. He heard me just fine. I heard him just fine. We were able to talk, and I'm upstairs at my house, kind of further away from my internet router, and we had no issues. But yeah, the mic was really good. Now, neither of us had the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, so unfortunately we were not able to try that out. But as far as the video quality that was coming through, again, we all saw it in Nintendo's trailers. The video quality of sharing your screen, it's probably 10 or 15 FPS. It's not very good. You know, I would understand with 4 people in GameChat, you're all sharing your video feed at once. That'd be a lot for the system to handle. But I was the only one playing while we were chatting, so I don't know why it was only 10 or 15 FPS that's being sent through over the internet. Is it that hard? Maybe it's just because the microphone is so good and it's pretty low latency. Maybe it's just they had to sacrifice somewhere with the video feed. I'm not too sure. We also tried the speech-to-text feature that Nintendo has in the settings, so I guess if you cannot hear or something, you can still do speech-to-text. I don't know what the use case is, but it worked pretty well. I mean, it didn't pick up everything. It thought we said other things at some points, just like live speech-to-text is just on a lot of things nowadays, so not too surprising that the speech-to-text wouldn't be perfect. So GameChat overall was pretty good, just besides the 10 to 15 FPS game feed that was going through. But to get into GameChat was a little interesting because if you even have one user that's registered as a child on your system, it will ask any user to enter the parental control pin before they can use GameChat, and you have to have parental controls set up on that system. So if you are an adult that is using your system, or you don't need parental controls, but let's say you have your kid on your system, you have to have your system set up with parental controls, and you have to type in the pin every time you go into GameChat. And I kind of get it, because if you are a parent, you want your kid to engage safely online, and they could just go into your user and then use it freely if Nintendo did not have this set up, but it's just kind of an annoying inconvenience if you don't need it. It's just something that I kind of wish you could turn off, because entering the pin is just annoying. So the Switch 2 overall is a straightforward upgrade from the Switch 1. It's a lot lighter on the Nintendo gimmicks, but it does introduce a lot more power than the Switch 1 had. Now, there are also a few issues to consider before you go out and buy a system. First of all, there is only one color variant of the Switch 2. When the Switch 1 came out in 2017, it had 2 color variants, the gray Joy-Con variant and the neon and red Joy-Con variant. But with the Switch 2, the only model has the left Joy-Con with the hints of the blue, and the right Joy-Con with the hints of the red. There are no other colors or anything like that, it's just the blue and red color. Another con is that the Switch 2 only uses microSD express cards. So to double your Switch 2 storage, you're basically going to have to be spending $60 as of right now to expand it. Now, for a majority of the general consumer, 256GB is going to be more than enough storage, even if you are transferring your old data and games from a regular Nintendo Switch and you plan to play them on there. 256GB should still be more than enough storage unless you own a lot of games. Now, if you are that person who buys every major title when it releases, a microSD express card might become a necessity eventually, but it really depends on how much you are buying games and how much data those games take. Now, I think the biggest deterrent from the Switch 2 is the battery life. Now, depending on your situation, again, this might not be an issue. It really depends on where you have your Switch 2 and your access to power. I've been playing the Switch 2 a good bit, and it seems like most Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games like Mario Kart World, or upgraded games on Switch 2 like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, seem to drive down the battery in about 2 hours. Now, moving into the games portion of the video, Mario Kart World is the main first-party AAA title that Nintendo has released for the Switch 2 at launch. And the fact that this game is $80 physical and digital, unless you buy the Switch 2 bundle and you get it for $50, I did have high expectations because this is an $80 game we are talking about here. It is a lot of money for a video game. But I will discuss if I think it's worth the price at the end of the video, but for now, I'm just going to talk about what I've thought of the game. Honestly, I was not really hyped by this game when I saw it, but once I played it, I really loved it. And when I think about it, this is the Mario Kart I always dreamed of. You can drive from track to track. They're actually connected for once. The Mario universe is connected and we have locations for everything. We can drive from course to course and tour the world. There's a whole free roam mode where you can literally drive to your heart's content. You don't have to follow any rules or anything, you can do whatever the heck you want. Now, my opinion on the Grand Prix mode is kind of mixed because I really like that you have the intermissions between courses. So how it's laid out is you do the first course 3 laps around, and then the second course is the intermission between the 2 courses, so you're driving to the next course, and then the last lap is the actual course that you are driving to, and you don't actually do 3 laps around any course after the first course. Hopefully that makes sense. It really comes down to, do you prefer having the intermissions between each course, or do you just like doing the classic 3 laps around each course and then being automatically transported to the next one? But this is just the Grand Prix mode, the actual mode that lets you unlock things, where you're competing with CPUs and their difficulties change based on the CC level that you play on. But traditional Mario Kart is certainly not going anywhere, because there's the Versus mode, which allows you to either drive to each course like in Grand Prix, or you can still do 3 laps around each course and then be transported to the next one you want to play. The Versus mode has always been the customizable mode, and it still is customizable, and you can still play Mario Kart how it always was before Mario Kart World. There's also free roam mode, which I know a lot of people are mixed on. I've been on X the past few days, by the way, follow me on X if you haven't already, and a lot of people seem to be mixed on the open world free roam mode, and I personally like it. Now, I know the argument is, well, there's not too much to do, it's just the same thing all around, but you have these P-switch challenges everywhere that you can basically jump on a P-switch and then you either hop through some rings or pass a challenge. It's like the mission mode from Mario Kart DS. And there are a lot of these around the map, so if you want some extra challenges, just hop into free roam and play these P-switch challenges. You can also earn stickers based on how far you drive, how far you glide, if you do certain things. They're kind of a symbol of what you've done, and you can select one for your profile. And finally, there's also Battle Mode, which uses tracks that are in Mario Kart World as battle tracks, but it works really well since this game is open world, so it feels like these courses were actually designed to be battle tracks, but they are also regular courses that you can play in the main game. Overall, I really like Mario Kart World, and I think it's a really fun game and a great successor to Mario Kart 8 by adding the open world factor. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is also a game that I've been enjoying. Now, I know that this has been getting a lot of hate because people thought it should have been a pack-in with the Nintendo Switch 2, not a paid digital game, but I'm here to tell you, I don't think that matters because it is only a $10 game, and to be honest, it's pretty fun. Now, it is a very niche experience, so not everybody will enjoy it, and thus the kind of bad reviews on Metacritic, it's just because it's a more niche game and people were hating on it just because it wasn't a pack-in. There's also GameCube for Nintendo Switch 2, so you've got Zelda Wind Waker, you've got F-Zero GX, and you've got Soul Calibur 2. Not too much to start off with, but if you like those games and you liked them on the GameCube, they'll be great here. Now, none of these are really too much of my interest, so I haven't really played much of any of these, but I mean, they seem like they run well, so if you like those games, go ahead and play them on GameCube. And finally, I also played The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 Edition. Now, I really liked this game, and any footage you see on screen will not do it justice because the improvement is amazing. You are now getting 60 FPS consistently. Now, I haven't gone everywhere, of course. I am a new Zelda fan, basically. I have not even played Breath of the Wild. I've kind of played Tears of the Kingdom, but seeing the Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom is really incredible. This game was already really nice on Switch, even though it did not run as good as it could have, just because the Switch hardware was extremely limited. But now that we have the Switch 2 that has a lot more specs, it's a lot better than the Switch. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild look incredible, considering that this is a handheld console, so I would definitely recommend picking this up. It does cost $10, but if you have the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack, you can get it for free like I did. Now, it does go away when your membership goes away, but even if you don't have the expansion pack, I would still recommend picking it up because the difference is crazy. Now we've come to the end of the video where I'm going to talk about, is it all worth the price? So first I'm going to start with the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware. You've got 4K now, up to 4K in docked mode. You've got 1080p in handheld mode versus 720p in handheld mode on the Switch 1. And you've got 120 FPS, you've got VRR in handheld mode, and you've got HDR. The upgrade is worth it, guys. It's $449. It is a lot more expensive than the Switch, but if we're comparing it to the PS5 and the Xbox, it's definitely a good price considering that it's a handheld. I know a lot of people say, well, it's comparable to a PS4 Pro, which is from like 2017, but you gotta keep in mind this is a handheld console. It's really amazing what they've done here with it. Now for the big question. Is Mario Kart World worth the $80 price tag if you buy it separate from the Switch 2 console? First of all, it is definitely worth it if you buy it in the Switch 2 bundle. If you don't care about it not being physical and you don't mind it being digital, then definitely it's worth it for only $50. This game is so amazing, the open world is nice, free roam is kind of fun even if it isn't as deep as it could be, and Knockout Tour is one of the best things that happens to Mario Kart in a long time. Now, is it worth paying $80 for? I know a lot of people were saying vote with your wallet and stop these $80 prices, and go ahead and do that if you don't like it, because I completely understand $80 is a lot of money for a game. And this game is only going to be worth it for people who really enjoy Mario Kart, or who know that they'll play it enough that $80 is worth the price. So it's definitely varied on how much do you enjoy Mario Kart. If you don't enjoy it enough to pay $80 for it, but you don't mind paying $50 for it, and you don't mind getting it digital, then get the Switch 2 Mario Kart World bundle. It's being produced through this fall. We have been seeing Switch 2s popping back up at retailers like Walmart, where you can still get a Switch 2 pretty easily if you want one. So I would definitely recommend that bundle. And if you're buying Mario Kart World separately, just evaluate, do you think it's worth paying $80 for? Because I played Mario Kart 8 Deluxe throughout the Switch's lifetime. I really enjoyed that game. I grinded through it, I unlocked the gold combo, and that game was just really fun, and I know I'm going to be doing the same with Mario Kart World, so it was worth it for me, but it might not be worth it for you. Now, games like Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, again, it is $10, so it's up to you if that's your thing. Do you want to learn about the system or not? Do you like reading about your system or taking quizzes or playing the mini games or things like that? Then if you do, I would get it. If you don't get it. It's not worth it in that case. It's a very niche game, so not everybody will like it, like I said earlier in the video. And Zelda Switch 2 Edition, again, it's definitely worth it if you want to see Zelda at 60 FPS. I mean, you can see it in 4K, but the frame rate is really what the winner is with this one. The frame rate is just so much smoother. It actually feels like what it would be if the developers actually had the resources in the console to make a full game. Because the Switch was certainly not powerful enough to show off this game and what it should have been. But anyway guys, that is my review of the Nintendo Switch 2. Do you want me to make a video on the free updates for Switch 1 games? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it, and I'd appreciate also if you went and checked out Epic EG3's channel. His videos are really good, and if you like Nintendo, you'll like his videos.